Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayode and welcome to the part 3 of this continuation of core Ansible concept to manage infrastructure in our cloud environment. And this part 3 of the video will be looking at the Ansible playbook. And like we said, that Ansible playbook is one of the major part of this core concept of Ansible automation. So before we move forward, let's quickly look at the benefit of core concept of Ansible. Like we've been emphasizing, we said that Ansible Playbook is a way, to automate tasks for managing a system configuration using the Ansible IT automation tools. So some of the benefits of core concept of Ansible, like we emphasized in our previous video, that it provides ease of use and it's agentless architecture. It's human readable and it's also quick, in detecting error. You can also run dry run to be able to preview what your task will execute before you execute the actual task, right? It allows user to automate complex IT workflow, right? The playbooks are very reusable and there's a lot of modularity, modules out there that you can use, and then it is very flexible. You can use it to automate multiple servers, your hosts in at once, and it is very declarative in nature, and user can actually decide whatever you want to do, and it has a very great community support. So before we move forward, let's quickly look at the prerequisite for this practical. Number one, you must have account in AWS because we'll be using AWS as our cloud environment. So, and then you must have permission to create EC2 instances. And number two, all the command we'll use or script, I will make sure that I put it in my public repo where you can access it and use it, to also practice the whichever task that you want to do. And also you need to create maybe multiple servers in your cloud environment, so you'll be able to use Ansible control server to manage those servers that you have in your cloud environment. And then you need to have maybe SSH client, like maybe Puri or Mobile STM, whichever one that you are more comfortable with to use. So let's quickly move on. I will go into my own AWS account, and then let me see the instance that I have running. Okay, so let me just create one instance, and then I'll call this, let me just call this teleserver 1, and I will use Red Hat for this. And then let me just leave it as T2 micro, and I'll select my key here, and then I will join it to one of my security groups. So you can also create a security group for yourself, or you can just join it to your existing security group. So I will click launch, and then I will go back to my instances, and I will let me refresh that, so I'll be able to see the one that is running. Okay, so the new instance is here, and then we've been using this Ansible server. So I will just power the Ansible control server that we've installed in our previous video. Okay, so I'll be using Mobile STM to connect to my instance. So if you have your Mobile STM, it will also look like mine. So I'm going to connect using the public IP address for my Ansible control server. And then because it's Ubuntu, the default username for Ubuntu is Ubuntu. If you have not changed your own, if you have changed your own, you have to change it to the appropriate username and password that you will use. So I've connected with my key pair, and then in our previous video we have already add a user called Ansible in this machine. So I'm going to change the user to Ansible. So that's what I want to do with this. I believe you have to. Okay. So let me clear my screen and make it also bigger for us to see. Okay, so I'll make it big enough for us to see. Okay, so let's quickly jump into our edited, our previous recap. So in our last video, we look at um, Ansible command in our Ansible concept. So today, let me just create training 3.sh. Okay, so let's quickly do a recap of what we did last week. I mean, in our last video. In our part 2 video, we actually we created a new instance. And then we also add the instance to our existing server. So we created a new instance. So we add the instance to our existing inventory. So, and then we also we use the yum module to install Apache using our command module. So we use service module, and we use systemd to start Apache. That is in our part 2 of the video. And then we said the default command in Ansible are command and setup. These are the major 2 commands that are default in the command. And we also said that setup module is responsible for gathering facts. You remember when we were trying to automate our files and it's gathering facts. So it is very important to know that setup module is responsible for gathering facts. So all the facts that were, calling when you are automating your tasks is being, run under the setup module. And then we created a simple HTML file in our Ansible control server, and then we also exported that into one of the hosts. So we use the copy module to export our HTML file. We export our HTML file into one of our hosts, which we actually installed Apache on, and then we modify the content and export the changes to the Apache server. And then we confirm the changes in our Apache server, and we realize the copy module help us to export the file into our Apache server. So in this part 3 of the video, I call this part 3 of our core Ansible concept. So in this part 3, we will be looking at Playbook. So this is our focus for today. We'll be looking at Playbook. And then we said that Playbook is a file that contains a set of instructions written in YAML file, right? Which is used to define a sequence of automation tasks that Ansible can execute on remote hosts, for configuration and managing IT infrastructure across multiple systems in a repeatable and consistent manner. So that's what Ansible does. And we can also say in a simple term that Ansible is a configuration file that is written in YAML language, which is used to automate configuration and managing, IT infrastructure in our cloud environment. So we can define it in that way too. So now we will try to create a playbook, and then we will see how we can be able to use a playbook. So let's look at how to create Ansible playbook, because this is very important for us to to understand the how we can be able to write Ansible playbook. But before we proceed, the first thing that we need to remember that even after we have created our Ansible playbook, we need to understand the command that we will use to, execute our either script, we call it, or playbook. So the first thing that we need to always remember, so the first thing to remember is that after you create your script or you create your playbook, the command that you will use to run your playbook is Ansible playbook, and followed by the name of script, or we can also say playbook name, something like that. Playbook, we can also say playbook name. So always remember, after you create your playbook, to run your command on your CLI, the first thing you have to remember is Ansible playbook, followed by the name of script, or maybe you call it your playbook name, right? And also, the second thing you have to also remember, is that you can actually run a syntax check, right? You can run a syntax check, and then you can also do a dry run. So what is the difference between this dry run and then the syntax check? The syntax check will check for errors if you have any error in your playbook while you are writing your YAML language, right? And then, while you are building your playbook, right? So, and then the dry run allows you to do a kind of preview of what your task will execute. So before your task will be executed in the exact host that you're trying to push it to, you can actually run the dry run to see what your execution will look like, right? So in that case, you can easily call it back, or maybe you can stop part of the execution along the way, And so you have to always remember that you can use the syntax check to check for error, and then you can use the dry run, to check your execution before it will be executed, right? So let me just bring that out for you. All right. So this will allow you to pre-check, before you done before the actual task is executed, right? So that's how it is. So let's go ahead and create a simple playbook. All right. So the first thing we want to do, is to make sure that we have a name. Of course, we can. Of course, it's advisable, to have our playbook, being built up in a text edition like Visual Studio, right? And then we copy it and create the file in our system, right? So let us say we want to, in our previous video, I think we ping, right? In our previous video, we use the ping module. I think we also use we also install packages. We install packages, and also I think we installed majorly we installed Apache. We installed Apache Srvr, and then I think in our previous video we also used the copy module. We use the copy module to copy our file, and then we also create a simple HTML file. I think we do that. We call it index.html, and then we copy the file into the host. So we do. I think we use the shell command as well. So let's see how we can use playbook. In our previous video we used command, right? On the surface we didn't build a playbook. So let's see how we can use playbook to build a command. So let's test a connection, because the purpose of a ping is to test connection. So it's for connection testing. So let's say we want to have a simple playbook that will work for our connection testing, in our environment to be able to check if our existing infrastructures are on and alive, right? So that's the purpose of having to have the playbook to be able to, test these machines. So I believe the first thing we need to do is to VI, right, into, let's say we call it ping.yaml. Remember, we said that that playbook is a configuration script, right, written in YAML, right? So it has to be in YAML file, in YAML format, right? So let's go ahead and then let us write a simple playbook for a connection test. So we'll do host, and then you remember when we started, I think in our first video, we created an inventory, right? So we have it at the back of our mind that an inventory file is already created in our host. Remember, we said that the host inventory file reside in etc ansible host, remember, with the S, right? That's where we put our inventory file. And inside this inventory file, in our previous video, we have this inventory, right? So we have this inventory in our inventory file in this etc ansible host, right? So now that's what we'll still be using, but we'll see if that is still available in our Ansible control server, right? So now to write our playbook, a simple playbook for this connection testing, we will say, remember, we have multiple host machine, right? We said it might be 50, it might be 60, right? So if we want this connection to run, to test all the machine, we will put all, right? But if we just want one, we can just look at one of our, okay, we have one here. I think we just created one today and we call it tally server 1, right? So we'll be implementing that in our host, in our inventory file. So let's say the machine we just installed, which is tally server 1, this one, let's say is this one that we wanted to use. So we'll just come here and then we will take the host machine, which is tally server 1, right? And then what is the task that we want to use? So the task we want to use is our task, is to make sure that we have a name for it, right? A name. What is the name? We want to do connection testing. Okay, and so what is the module we want to use is ping. Remember, when we are using the command module, we use the ping command, right? We use the ping command, the ping module, sorry, right? So, and then, the remote user, which is our username, right? The remote user. Remember, if this host machine is running on, let's say, Ubuntu, right? Let's say Ubuntu, then the username, remember in our files here, the host machine that is running on Ubuntu operating system, the user is Ubuntu, right? And then the web server, which is running on Red Hat, this is running on Red Hat, right? And the default username to this Red Hat is EC2-user, right? So now, because this server, I think we installed it on Red Hat, right? So it will be connecting through EC2-user. So that is what that would be. And then you remember that during the time that we ping in our first video or the second video we ping, we also check for, I think we check for CPU usage, CPU usage, right? Using our command module, right? So let's say we want to also perform a task, right? To also test, to check for CPU usage. So we can come back and then we can give it, we can run this task also, name, and we can call it CPU usage, just like we did in our previous video using the command modules, right? So now what should we use? We can use the shell modules, right? Here we're using the ping module, right? So we use the shell module here. So we can just say shell and then -I, right? So let's say we have other hosts that we still want to make use of. Like we can still continue and say, host, and we can specify other hosts. Like for instance, let me go to our AWS. Let's say we have Cube Master or we have Cube Node 1, Cube Worker Node 1, right? So we can also come here and then specify the host, right? And call it Worker Node 01, right? So if you have another host too, another host we want to perform a separate, remember here we are actually performing the task on this particular host, right? It's not all. If it's all, then we don't need to specify other hosts. But let's say we want to do test connection and user check on this machine, then we can just, have this, copy this, and then we can have it under the worker node 1, and that is how the machine will begin. I mean, the task will, perform different tasks that we want on different hosts, right? So we can call this worker node 02, and then we will begin the same thing that we did here, right? Remember, so we'll do the same thing there. So we can continue that, but let's just take let's make this a simple script, a simple playbook, right? So remember I said that the first thing that we have to remember, in this is we have to make sure that we remember, this command for playbook. So to execute our tasks, we need to do something like, Ansible hyphen playbook, and then the name that we give into this playbook name. So this will be our playbook name. Remember what I said. So let's quickly perform these little tasks on our Ansible, server. Let me go to the Ansible control server. This is our Ansible control server. Let me just check what we have there. Okay, we have the index file that we saved in our previous video. So let's vi and call it ping.yaml, right? So I'll press I and then I'll paste this in. So now this is our playbook. So I'm just going to like escape and then quit, right? And quit it, right? So now we have already write our playbooks. If I do ls, so we have the ping.yaml here, right? So if I do Ansible, of course I need to see. Let's see, maybe our Ansible is actually connecting to our server 1. So because I just built this server, I need to add it to, we need to add this server. Remember, we need to add this server to our, I think it's visible enough. So we need to add this server 1, to our inventory, because this is a new server that we just created. So let me just copy this. You have to copy the private IP, and then we'll go to, let's go to our mobile esteem, and then let us go into let's VI into our etc Ansible host. This is where we have our inventory. Remember, this is our inventory. So previously we have tally server. So we do not use the tally server again. So we call it tally server 1, and then the IP address, the private IP address will be taken off. So the new IP address will be there. The username, because it's Red Hat, we'll keep it as EC2 user, and the Ansible private key is, previously we kept our key in this term. So I'm going to escape and then I will save this. All right. So now I've added. So let's quickly ping it and see if our Ansible control server can actually see or connect to that host machine. So the host machine is tally server 1, and then let's use the ping module, right? So let's see. Oh, unable to reach. Okay, so this is the main reason why we need to test our machine if it's connected. Okay, so fail to connect to the VROs warning permanent added to the list. No such identity. Okay, so it's complaining permission denied of the key. So let's check our key, because in our previous video our key reside in them. So let's see. So the key is no longer there. So we need to make sure that we create the key back. So remember that the key that you are using to, to log in into when you create the EC2 instance, right, is what you will need to copy and then create inside the temp directory, right? So I will take my key. Let me just take my key and then my key pair. So let me see where I kept my key. All right, so this is my key, and that is how your own tool should look like, right? So I'm going to copy my key, and then I will do vi and then go into the temp directory key1.pem. Remember, I named my key key1.pem just for me to make sure that it still remain the same name, right? I don't need to go back and change all the settings. So I'm going to put my key and then I'll escape, and I will quit and save, right? So we can run our command again. So we can just see, let's see if we'll be able to view the connection. Okay. All right. So it's complaining that our key is not protected. So to do that, we use show mode 400, and then where is the file? The file is in temp key1.pem, right? I hope my screen is visible. Let me clear my screen. Let me clear my screen. I hope you're able to see. Okay. So I will do show mode 400 in temp directory, and the file is key1.pem. So I'm using this to turn my key to read only, right? So now let's ping and see if we'll be able to see the server. All right, so we can be able to talk to our server. So now we can then go back now, and use, remember we've created the playbook called ping.yaml. We want to test the connection to this system. So let's recreate our, let's just recreate our files. So let's just copy and then let's recreate it, and let me just remove ping.yaml. Okay, so we have only our index file. Let's vi into it and say ping.yaml, and then let's paste it. So now we want to make sure that we check if the connection, we want this playbook, to execute a connection for us, a ping connection between, our Ansible server and this Tally server. And then we want to also see if it can also perform a user check, CPU user check, right? Remember in our former video, we use a command here. We use a command here. We use a command. This one is not to. We use a command, to do this. We said, if you remember, we use a command module. We say command, and then we say free -m. So whichever one, we can also use the shell, right? So let's just escape, and then let's vi into it. And then the next thing we want to do now is, remember I said that we can run for syntax text. Let's say we have an error in this our playbook, right? We can do something like Ansible. We can do Ansible playbook, and then to run for the syntax error. What's the playbook? The playbook name is ping.yaml, right? Ping.yaml, and then what do we want to do? We want to check if there's an error, right? Like I said, we can check for error before we even continue. So we can run this and see if there's an error. So this is saying that invalid character were found and could not match supply host pattern. Of course, we don't have anything in this place and the machine is not connected, of course. So we can either go back. I can go back and just, go back inside my file and then, and then just remove this. But we know we didn't put any, any files, and these two host machine are not powered, right? So we can just ignore that, or we can as well just come and then take that off, right? So I can just take that off. And then I can also take this off, right? So that's just the essence, the essence of, confirming the syntax check. So host cannot be empty because of course I have to put something there. So this is the purpose of that. So I can just let me just insert, and then let me just put worker node 01. I think maybe there's no S there. Worker node 1. Then we also have worker node 02, right? So that's fine. So we can just go ahead and and run our playbook. So another thing we can do is to also check do a dry run and see if this playbook will even work, right? So it's going to execute, right? So of course, worker node 1 and 2, we all know that we didn't put something down, they are not on. So now we have not even, execute our tasks, right? By checking the connection. But if it's normal thing, if it's other tasks you want to do, then you will be able to see if your tasks will be performed. You can see, okay. And then there are two things we want to do. You can see, and then is there anyone that failed? No. Is there one that has been skipped, right? Of course, we know that the worker node 1 and 2 are skipped, right? So, and then, so we can this is the way to to see. And then if we want to then run our playbook, so what we just need to do is to now run the main task, right? This is the main task. Do you see now? So it is the task we said, it makes the changes, right? So we see the connection and then it skips this other one. So this is how we can use playbook, to be able to execute tasks. So let's move forward and see how we can use playbook. In our previous video, I think, what do we do in our previous video also? In our previous video, I think we did use Ansible, to a command module to install Apache, right? So let's see how we can use Playbook. We use Playbook to do, to install Apache, right? In our host machine, which is, let's use the same server, right? So let's just use the same server to do that. So what we're going to do now is to see how we can use Playbook. Let's write a playbook to, let's just say create a playbook to uh, deploy Apache, right? I think we also did a copy. We use a copy module. So let's also say and copying content from Ansible control server to host, right? To the target host, right? To the target host. Good. So this is what we want to do. Now we want to install Apache, and then we want to, write a simple playbook for that. So let's say hosts. So our hosts are, we want to make use of tally server 1, which is available. Remember, we use become. You remember we used minus, -b when we were running on the command line, right? So we can make use of that, and then we say the -b is become. So we can say become is true, so we can get the permission to do that, right? So what we want to do next is to give the name of our task, and we want to install Apache. So we want to install Apache, right? So, and then what what modules are we going to use to do that? We're going to use a package module, right? So we're going to use package, so, and then we want to remember when we're doing when we're installing Apache, we use httpd, right? And the state we said is present, right? And so we also we'll start Apache, right? We start Apache when we did that. So we start Apache. um, After installing, we start Apache with a service, and then we said we copy our index file. Remember, HTML. We have the index file that we created. So, and then we copy it, right? So the tax we use is a copy module, right? So our module is copy. So where are we copying from? We're copying from source, right? So we're copying from source. And then what are we copying? We're copying the index.html file, right? And then where are we sending it to? The destination equals to here. So the destination of the Apache will be in, the home file of the var, right? So we'll put www and then home file, right? Which is either home or so the HTML is going to link it up. So now we can also use handler, right? The handler will make us to, it will continue to, each time that we make any changes, so we can be able to make sure that the changes go through when you run the playbook, like the changes take effect in the host machine when the Apache get restarted. So we use the handler, but of course, when you use handler in Playbook, you have to make sure that you notify. So this is how you use it. If you say handlers, and then we say we have to do the name, right? The name. So restarted. So we have to do restart or restarted Apache, right? Apache, just like the way we restart Apache in our command line, right? So we go, and then the service we want to use the service module, right? Is, remember, we do name equals to httpd, and then the state equals to restart, right? Restarted. Okay. So, and then have we did we install. So we need to start Apache. We also need to start Apache after we installed. So after we installed, we need to make sure that we start Apache. So let us make sure that we add that here. So we need to add that here. We need to make sure that we start Apache. Of course, we installed, so we need to start Apache, right? And we can use system D to start Apache, just like we did. So the command, the module, we'll use system D module, and that will start Apache. So we can just copy the one there. So we can copy, and then we paste it. So we're using system D, and then the state will now be started, because we need to start Apache, right? So now we want to then use the copy module. So the copy module is to copy the index file, and then we will use copy module, to do that, and then we'll use handler. So the handler will, each time there is the changes, is going to restart Apache. That's what we're trying to do here. And then the service that is going to restart is the service, the service module, right? That's going to do that, and then it will be notified. Once it's notified, and that will happen. So we have to then say, once that is notified, we will do copy. It's going to copy the changes we made in that file, HTML file, right? So this is what we're trying to do. So we have to remove the file. You can leave it here. So what we're trying to do now is the same thing we do there. We deploy, we install Apache, and then we start Apache, right? And then we copy Apache using the copy module, and we use handler, to notify and, modify anytime we make changes in the index file. I mean, in the index.html. So we use handler as well. All right. So this is our aim. This is what we want to do. So now let me just put this here. So this is a playbook. This playbook is going to do all of this for us. It's going to perform this task for us, and then we can call it let's call it Apache. Let's just say Apache.yaml, right? So let us go into our system and let us clear our screen, make it more viewable. Okay, and so we can vi and create a file and call it apache.yaml, right? So let's copy that. So we'll copy this, go our system, and then press I, and then we'll paste this. Okay, so we name this let's see, ls. So this is our apache.yaml, right? So now index file, let's quickly cut our index. So we need to cut our index file to see what is inside the last time .html. All right, so in our index file we have welcome to Kayode channel. Thank you for watching this to this day. Don't go nowhere. We still have more to do in Ansible concept. Okay, so let me just let's veer into index and HTML, and then let's just adjust that to in Ansible concept, core concept, and let's say hyphen playbook. So let's escape and let's save that just to make a little difference from what we've done before. So now we need to, I think our host machine is powered, and then so what we need to do now is to first check if we have an error in our files, right? So we can use Ansible playbook, like I said, and then run the playbook name, which is apache.yaml, right? And then hyphen syntax, right? We want to check for the syntax if we have an error. Okay. It's an invalid character were found in a group name but not replaced. Use this is just the verbose mode, right? So we're good. We can go with this. Let us see. Let us run a dry run and see if there is any error. Okay, so it's going to give us this error. So this is exactly why it is important to run the the check, the dry run, to be able to see exactly what will be executed and what will happen next. So to start Apache, failed, change false, message could not be found, requested service, HTTPD host, right? So let's see what is happening there. Let's go back to our file and see. So our tally server is up and running. We've pinged that before. Our tally server 1 is running, right? Okay, so we install Apache, and then that is HTTPD, and the state is present. We start Apache using systemd, and state is started, right? So we're going to copy. Okay, the index file is there. We have the index file there, and then the destination for us is there. And then the handler is going to, once it's restarted, it will get notified and then the service will be restarted. Okay, so I think everything is good. Everything is good. Let's see. Let's see what is going to happen after we run the playbook. So let's just run the playbook. So we'll run the playbook and see why is it not running. Let me clear the screen and let's do it again. Let's see. So we are running the actual task now. All right, so it's successful. Actually, maybe there's just one or two things that happened there. So our Apache is being installed, and then it start our Apache, and then it copy the index file, and then this will happen. The third one will happen. Only when there's the changes. So let's go into our tally server, right? Which is our Apache server this time. So we're gonna copy the public IP, and then let's go here and let's see. Like you can see the playbook, you can see what we've done there. So this machine actually was, just new. We created this new, we don't have anything inside, right, before. And now we are able to use the playbook, to automate the tasks, right? So if we go ahead now and let's say we want to I have some server here which I don't want to toy with. Let's say we create a new server, right? Let's create a new server and call it new DB, right? So we call it new DB, and then let's use weather, and let's say we have a new machine there, because this is the purpose of having this automation, right? And then let me choose keep here, just the same way you have your own keep here. And then let me select a security group, and I will keep it under my Kubernetes group, and I will save this. So now we have let's check the instances that are running, right? So we have new DB. We have new DB. So we have new DB. Let's add this new DB to our inventory file in our tally, in our Ansible control server, right? So if we go inside if I VI into, no, let's not VI. Let me write it before I just go there, because it will be much easier for me. So I will just put, let me write, or I can just copy there, and then let me see one of our files that we did in our previous video. Okay, so we have this IP address that I'll copy later. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this, and then I'll paste this, and I'll call this new DB. We'll call it new DB. So the IP address is, let me just cut off the IP address and replace it here. So the IP address is 172.31.80.237. So it's using the same key, right? So it's using the same user, right? And the same key, the same username and the same key. So I'm going to go into my Ansible control server. So I will clear my screen, and let me go inside. Let's edit this, our etc Ansible hosts, right? So let's edit, and let's say and let me just come down here, and then let me paste this file. So new DB is being added into our inventory file, right? Remember, our inventory file is saved in EC2 Ansible host, right? So I'm going to escape now, and then I will quit, right? So now I will go into my Ansible server, right? Let me go into my Ansible server, sorry, my playbook. I'll go into my playbook, which is Apache. Let me just see. Let's see. So we got let's VI into Apache, the YAML, right? So now I have this playbook here, right? So let me do, let's say we want to, I don't want to push into all, right? Because I've installed into this. Let me just say I want to push it into new DB, right? Which I have in my, inventory file, right? So I leave everything the same way it is. I'm going to install Apache. I'm going to start Apache. I'm going to copy the index file, and then I'm going to, push it into the host machine, which is new DB, right? So I'm going to escape, and then I will write and queue, right? So now let me go into let's veer into our index file just to make a change so we'll be able to know HTML, right? So we go into it, and then let's say we insert something and say, let me go write this here because it might be very difficult for us to write. So let me just go inside my um, 3, training 3, and let's just write something like, let's write a simple HTML file, right? So let's just do the one, and here I will close it, right? So now inside it, we'll call it for the new DB, right? So new DB. So let's just put it that way. Let's just a simple one, right? Just for us to see a new modification that we have there. So let's go back into our system here, and let me paste this. So let me escape, and let me save. No, that would go as a cap letter. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to run. Remember, this is a new machine, right? That we just installed, right? A new server. So the new server here is not having anything there, right? There's nothing inside the new server. It's just a fresh operating system, right? A fresh new DB server, right? So now I will just use my playbook that I've already, written, right? And then that's why we said it is very reusable, right? So I'm going to reuse it now to, install this into my new DB, right? So now I'm going to just run the file again. Of course, where is the file? Where is it? Ansible Playbook. So Ansible Playbook Apache.yaml, right? So I'm just going to go in, and let's see. That's a new machine. I think it's 237. That's a private IP address. So it's installing the Apache. Let's see. Into the new machine. Let's see. 237. Let me see the private IP. Okay, the private IP address is 237, right? So we could. So let's see. Okay, so Apache has been installed, and then Apache has been started, and it has copied the index file, right? Which is our HTML file, right? And then that has been pushed. So let's go now and see the server, the same server that we've copied before, right? The same public IP. Let's go and put in your public IP and run it. Do you see that the playbook has already implemented, within a second, it's actually reusable, right? We can just make use of what we want to do, and then we implement it into our new system. As well as if we have about, let's say the servers are, if I power all the server on, right? If I power all of my server on, right? And then I put on hold. If all these servers are in my inventory file, right? Are in my inventory file, like what we did in our previous video, we have all the inventory file here. And I use all, in this playbook. If I change this to all, if I change this to all, then it's going to deploy these tags in all the machine in 1 second. So that's the power of the playbook. So let us see what we can also do. Let me clear my screen. Let's see what we've done. I think we've done everything that we did in our previous video. We installed Apache, we start Apache, we use a copy module. In fact, we use handler here. So we've used this playbook to do almost what we've done with our command, when we were when we are on the command concept, right? So let us see what we can also do again. Let's say we're given a task, to install some packages in our machine, right? So let me go inside my edited file. So I'll take this off. Let's say we're given a task. Let's say we're given a task, to install latest version. Let's say latest version of. Let's say we're given a task to install latest version of addicted packages, right? Addiction packages like let's say Nano, for example, to edit, just like we use Vim, right? Let's say we've been given, you know, uh, we've been given a task to install Nano. Let me just use Nano, and then we're given a task to install or to update Vim. Let's say Vim is already in our system, so we either installing or running the latest, right? And then let's say we also give a task to install uh, wget. Let's say we're given a task, to install all of these packages. Which packages can we also think of? Let's say we're given a task to install unzip, maybe also install zip, right? So maybe we also given a task to install tree, right? So anything we've been like we want to install, let's just say we have this, right? And then we want to create a playbook to make sure that our playbook can be run like every month or every week to install latest version of an application that are very important to the organization, right? And you want to create a simple file, like let's say a loop playbook, right, to be able to loop and then install into the local host, right, or the machine at a go. So let's see how we can just write a playbook to do that. So of course, to write the playbook, we need to, start with our host, right? And then our host is, if it's all the machine that we want, we have all the packages on and we want to, continuous having to, update or install the latest version of it, you can put all. But in this case, let's say we want to install it on our Tally server 1. I believe we have that. So, and then remember, become is true, right? This will allow us to, to be able to install. Otherwise, remember the issues we are having on the previous videos, right? If we don't apply the -b, right? So this is as having that. Then you remember when we are installing, when we were executing our tasks, right? It's gathering fact, right? It's gathering fact. So I'm going to show you how we can actually stop that by saying gather underscore fact, right? Gather underscore fact and make it false. Right? So let me just comment on this. So we'll be able to see how we want to do this when we get there. So the task we want to perform is what? We want to install, right? So we want to install. This is our subject. We want to install packages, right? We want to install packages. So which module are we using? So we're using package module, right? So we're using package module, and that will be the name of the packages that we wanted to, installed. So name will be, so if we want to make it in a list, right, global, we want to make it global, we can make it in a list, right? And then let's just copy everything that we have here. Copied everything we have there, right? So, and then we, we paste that there. And then the state, we want to make it latest, right? The latest version, right? So let's say we're giving uh we're given a task, to do this. This is what, how we can write our playbook. Let's also say that we are asked to also install more other thing, like let's say Alpine, or let's say we want to install like Nginx, right? So we can as well, come back and then make sure that we have our name, the name as sorry, this has to be a space. There must be a space there. So the name, let's say we want to have additional tags, right? Like let's say we want to install Nginx, right? For example, we want to install Nginx, right? So, and then the package, right? The package will be to, name equals to, remember the way we do here, we want to install, when we want to install Apache, right? Because it's a server, right? So we do name Nginx, right? Nginx, right? And the state. So we're using the package modules for this is present, right? So, and then let's say, what do we want to do? We want to install Nginx, and then the package module we want to use is package module, right? So, and then we can do it this way, and then we can also write it in another way, right? This is global. We can as well list it out, right? We can list it out, just like when we're having our variables, right? When we get to variables, we can also write it in a way like this. We can write it this way, right? And then we'll say just the same way we have it here. So that means you can as well write this list. If you don't want to make it global, you can make it a list, right? So you can then make this package. We can make this package to be here and call it package. Instead of having this here, right, we can have this listed, right? So we can then say name, and we call it Nginx, right? And then the state, and we call it present. So these are different ways that we can write our playbook, right? If you don't want to make it global, you can write it like this. So the same way you can do, you use a package, and then the name will be all of this name. We list them out, and then the state will put it there. So it can be right that way too. So let me come here, and I will put a line. So we can call this let's just call it's loops, right? It's loops. This is loops, right? So, but let's just call it let's say deploy, or let's just say install.yaml, right? We can say install.yaml. This is the file we want to create, right? So let us get our file copied, right? Oh man, this is turning. Okay, so we have our file, and then we can then go to our system, right? And then let's see what we have here. This is our Ansible control server, and then we can do vi into install.yaml, right? This is the language that Playbook support, right? Then we can paste our file. Where is our file? I think we have our file here. Let's copied it. So come here, and then I'll paste the files. So now we actually commented on this. So let me just take away the comment, and we will see what this will do. So now I'll put this as true. Remember, I commented on that. So I will escape, and I'll save that file, right? So now we have, let me list file. We have install the YAML. So we have installed the YAML. So let's quickly do, let's run our syntax check, right? So we want to run our syntax, right? Let me see one of the command we use there. So no, we're just gonna do here, instead of writing all the command back again, we put install the YAML, right? Install the YAML, and we want to see if we have error in our index file. So we don't have, we can just ignore this verbose mode, right? So now let me try to do let's try to do a dry run. The dry run we said is the pre, is the pre task that we want to do. It's going to show us what it will execute. So now you can see the gathering part. If you have a lot of tasks, this might really take a lot of time. Like if you want this to be, eliminated, you want to avoid this gathering of fat, which is responsible, as we said that the setup is responsible for this, which we don't really want that to take our time in case we have a multiple, tasks that we want to perform. But our dry run is letting us to know that these packages will be installed and there won't be errors, right? Even Nginx will be installed, right? So now, if we go back to, let's go back to our, let's veer into our file, install.yaml, right? So let's put this fact, let me insert, and then let's change this to false, right? So we've changed that to false. Let's escape and let's save it. So let's clear our screen and let's run a dry run again. Do you see that we've taken away the fact, the gathering fact has been taken off. So in case we have a lot of information, I mean a lot of tasks that we wanted to execute, so we don't want that to continue gathering the fact, so we can just go there and then use and change the gather underscore fact, to false, right? So now we can now deploy our task, right? We can execute. So that will be installed, right away. So it's trying to, install. The first change has been made, is installing, all packages has been installed within a second, right? It has installed in Nginx, right? And then, so let's go into our machine. That's Tally server. So we need to connect to let's connect to our machine. That is Tally server 1. And then let me see. Let me use the CLID AWS command. So instead of using our mobile STM. Oh, so it's giving error. So let's just connect Tally server 1, public IP, and let me go to my mobile STM and let's start a new season and let's check. And I think it's EC2 user because it's Red Hat. And then I'll use my key, and of course the task has been executed successfully, right? So that's our Tally server 1, right? So if I say, let's say zip, right? So it's there. So if I do nano, right? So that's nano because nano is not installed before. So nano has been, installed, right? So now that is the way we can actually use we can use Playbook, right? So let's say we also have a task, or that we wanted to. Let's think of any other task that we might want to use. Let's say we have a task. We're given a task to do. Maybe let's say we're given a task, maybe to create a user, right? For example, let's say we have a task to create user, and like we said, in our previous video, we said there are a lot of Ansible modules that we can use, to perform a lot of tasks. I mean, various tasks that we might be required to. Let's look at this. You see, we can see a lot of Ansible, modules And even if we go online, if you go back to our, let's go to our file. If we come here, right, we can see a lot of modules, that we can use, to perform tasks, right? Let's just take away this and put this. You see, there are thousands of modules, that we can use. You see, there are a lot of modules here that we can use, to perform various tasks. So it is very important. I'm going to drop this link too, in the video, below the video. So you'll be able to use these tasks as much, to perform any task you might even think of, right? So let's say we want user creation, right? So we want user creation, right? So we can anything that you might think of, right? We have it there. It's there. Let's say you want user, you can make use of any modules that you want there. So let's try to see. The video is getting long, so I want to make sure that I break it down because we still need to handle variables, Ansible variables. So we need to be able to use variables in our playbook, which is very, very important. So let's say we're given a task, to create a user, right? You can see how many modules that we have here. A lot of modules, right? A lot of modules that we can make use of. So you need to try that on your own to see how you can, use these modules to help in times of, automating the tasks that you want to perform. So let's say we're given a kind of, let's go back to our training tree. Let's say we're given a task, to implement or to create users in our host, right? So how do we do that, right? So let's see how we can use Playbook, to implement that into one of our hosts. Maybe we can use let's do that. Let's create user in Tally, server host, right? So we want to do that. So I have a playbook here that we can reuse to create a user. So this will, my screen is really big. Let me see if I can bring it a little bit smaller. Okay, so this is a playbook that will create a tally in the host we are targeting is the tally server 1, right? We're targeting tally server 1, and then become is true, right? Become is true. So it's true, right? Or yes, whichever one we want to. Then let's just say we want to create an audit user, right? And then the user is Ansible, right? And then we create under the home. Yes, the modules we are using is shell, right? And then under the Ansible management account, right? So we want it to also have a sudo access, for the audit user, right? And then you remember when during our command, we join the Ansible to a sudoers, right? So we want to join it to the sudoers, and remember we run this command when we are trying to join to sudoers, and then we disable the password authentication, and also we have lining file is another file in Playbook that is very, very important. So we'll use this to make sure that the SSD config file in the destination file is being implemented, right? And the password authentication is re-expired, right? So it's registered, right? And then we have the notifiers, right, which is for our lining file. Anytime that we have any changes, either we in our authentication, then it's restart, and then we get a backup. So our lining file can do that for us, and then our handler that we discussed the other time will restart if there's any changes, right, in service. So now we will use this playbook. We'll reuse it to create a user in this host machine. So now let's first go into our machine, right? I think we have the machine here before. So let me go inside. This is our machine. I believe this is our the new DB. So this is the new DB machine. Let me see. I think is it the new DB? I think it is. So if I go into into, let's go, we are targeting the, okay, let's just target the new DB, right? Let's just target the new DB instead of Talisa, since we have the new DB connected. So we already SSH into that, so we can do new DB, right? So we have the new DB, and then let's check the new DB if we have anything inside. So, we want to confirm if there is any user called Ansible in this place before. And, to do that, we can do cat. We can cat our etc, right? And then we can do password, right? Just for us to see if we have any file. So we don't have any file like Ansible, right? So we don't have any file like Ansible in this machine. Remember, we installed Nginx. Remember the last task that we did, we installed Nginx server, right? So Nginx web server is already on this machine. So now we want to make sure that we install Ansible. We want to join Ansible. You know that the default user with this machine is EC2 user, right? If you remember, it's EC2 user. So we want to add Ansible. We want to implement Ansible using our playbook, right? Inside this machine, right? So let me just, where is this is our new DB machine, right? And that is, I think that's 34. That's 34. That's our new DB machine. Yeah. So that's 34. So we're going to, let me just close it and close this one as well. So our new DB is this. So it's up and running. So now let us use this module. Let's use this playbook to create, we use this, oh man, we use this playbook to create a user. So let's veer into our Ansible control server. This is our Ansible server, right? So I'm going to clear, and then I will call this user, let's just call the user acct.yaml. That's user account.yaml, right? So, oh, sorry, I need to vim. So, and then I will paste, our file. So I'm going to escape and I will save, right? So we have user account here. So let's just go back to make our life simple. So we will just put that user account.yaml, right? User account.yaml. So we can run our syntax check if we want to, but maybe we can just do dry run. Let's just do dry run. So these are dry run. I think it failed to script, restore module, and what is that? Unable to encrypt nor hash pass B. So this is the purpose of having the dry run. So we're gonna get an error here. So it's saying unable to encrypt nor hash pass B. Oh, when we are installing our Ansible, we use the module. We didn't use the Python. So we might need to get this installed. So let me see. Pass B must be installed. No module name pass B. So for that script, for that playbook to run, we will need to install Python 3 and Parsley. So let's see how we can solve that problem. Let's try to run the dry run again and see the error we're getting again. Okay, all right. So let's see, Parsley must be installed. So let's install, because I think this is Ubuntu. So let's install the Python 3 first. Install the Python 3 because we didn't use Python to install our Ansible. So it's already in the newest. So let us do sudo apt update. So let us update. Let us update. Okay, so then let us install Python back, Python 3, because we didn't use Python to install the Ansible. So yes, so let us see. Let's install that and see if our errors will be eliminated. Okay, so let's install the pib, the pap, the pass-lib. So let's Python install, so we can then systems, system packages, then the pass-lib. Let me clear my screen so you'll be able to see. So we gotta see how we get the package, installed, and that is pass-lib. Okay, so let's try to run our command again. Let's run our playbook again. Yeah, this is it. So user account check. Let's see. All right, so if we run this now, it's going to work. So this is going to work for us. Let us run our, you remember, playbook user account YAML, and we've checked. We've run the dry run to see what will happen for our execution. So let's execute the main task now. Yeah, so now it has gathered file, and then the task has been implemented. It has created user account, and then it has added it to the sudoers, and then it has disabled password authentication, and the answer is ready for any changes to be made. Remember how we did. So let's go to our, remember this. So let me clear our DB. So I'm going to clear. Let me see if this will be much more visible. Oh man, I have to do it from here. So I have to do from here. All right, because it's going to look smaller before we'll be able to get it. So now, if I run the command again, cat password, this is where we see the username, right? If we go into it now, we should be able to see Ansible, server, Apache, user. I'm trying to see, we should be able to see Ansible as a user here. EC2 user is there, Ingenious is there, system user, SSD. I'm going to go into let me go into our file. Wait a minute, it should be there. Web user shared. So let me go into that and see. Let me go into our file and see the one we use. ls, I think install dot. So let me vi into install. No, not install. Inside user account, user ct.yaml, YAML. Okay. Let me see. Inside, and let's see. DB. Yeah, we have that in DB. We have that in DB. Let's see again. Let me do that into our tally server 1. I'll escape, and then let me clear my screen. and then I will run that playbook. Audit user. Oh, I think it should be audit. Where is it? Where is it? Uh, uh, Finding it difficult to see. Okay, where is the? Okay, yeah. So the account is there. We have the account there. So let me change the account. If I change it to, let me see, it's there. So if I veer into user account, let me change this to, I'll change this to, uh, let me just change this to another one. So I'll change this to uh, DevOps user, Ansible user management. So I'm going to change this to DevOps, and then let me escape. Okay, I forgot where. I think I'm using, let me use the DB, new DB. So I'm going to use the new DB. I could let run it again. Kind of find it difficult to see the account. So in DB, let's run it again and see. So I'll go back here, clear my screen, and then I'll cut it and check. Oh yes, so the Ansible is installed. So we have it now. So Ansible management account. So you see, do you see? We could be able to see Ansible management account, and then we have the username as Ansible. So we have the username as Ansible. So now this is how we can use Playbook, to implement a lot of tasks that we want. So if you look at our, if you come to if you veer into this, you will see the Ansible management account. You see the comment, Ansible management account. So that allows us to be able to see, and then the username that we're trying to install is this. So the module, you can see that's the username. So if you come here, you'll be able to trace it also. You can trace it from here, Ansible management account, right? And then home, and then we see the user account. So this is the way we can be able to use Playbook for various tasks that we want to implement. This video is really long, and I will try to break it down, and then we will start another video, which will be part 4, where we'll be able to use variables. We'll be able to see how we can make use of variables in our playbooks, and that is very, very important as well. We'll see how we'll be able to pass variables, right? How we can also use uninstall package. The other time we install package, we can also use the same way, to uninstall a package, and we can use variables to do that. Remember, we install package, right? So the same way we can also create a username, a playbook, to uninstall package. Let's say we're given a task, to uninstall a package. Let's say we're given a task to say uninstall packages, right? Uninstall packages. So we can use the same way we used to do. Remember, when we install packages, then we can just change it. We can just, make it uninstall, and then the state will be absent, right? Instead of the present, right? Instead of this present, we can use absent. So let me see how we can do that. Let me just quickly write that out. I'll write that out for the sake of this video to make it shorter. Let's see. I'll just write that out instead of typing it. So we can use this, to uninstall. You can see how we do it now. We didn't make it global, right? So we're using the variable. We're calling it a variable. We're trying to call it as a variables, right? So we're trying to pass it as a variable. So when you pass as a variable as well, it can come under the itemize, right? Instead of making it global, right? So if I copy this now, I'll have to put it as Tally. I think we install it in Tally Server 1, right? So if I copy now all of the things that we installed, I can copy from here, and then we go to our machine, our Ansible control server. Let me quit this and let me clear. If we go to our Ansible control server and then we say vi on uninstall the YAML, right? And then I pass this and then I paste, right? So that means the host I want to target is this, and then become is true, of course, to get the permission to install and uninstall. So now we want to uninstall list of packages. Become, of course, is yes, true. Apt, because if we want to, if I want to pass this, let me say I want to pass this into a red hat. You remember, so we can't use app module. We have to use your module because this is actually written for this Ansible, to install in this Ansible machine, which is Ubuntu, right? So for that is going to be yum, right? And then we pass our variable down, nano, we get it, then we can escape and then quit, and we can just run the way we run our other playbook. We run our playbook, and this one will be, we change it to on install the YAML. So we can do dry run to check, right? So everything is fine. So as soon as you can see it's making changes. So uninstall list of package, so it can uninstall nano, widget, vim, zip, unzip, right? So if we want to make use of we want to execute this task, we will just do Ansible playbook uninstall the YAML, then we click OK, right? We entered and the list of the packages will be uninstalled. Yeah, so you can see how we use our playbook to install, and we can also, use our playbook to uninstall. So we can use a lot of modules, even in our playbook, right, to execute a lot of tasks. This video is really long. Thank you for watching. I'm going to continue another video, in the part 4, which will be looking into the variables, right? Thank you for watching, and thank you for your time. Please subscribe and like. Bye.